Hello, and thank you for joining me. Today I'm going to talk to you about encouraging people with an eating disorder to fulfill themselves rather than fill themselves. The population that I'm going to be talking about are females between the ages of 10 and 55. I excluded males only as a means to simplify the presentation. The diagnoses include anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa, and binge eating disorder. I'm going to take you on a journey of my evolution from an addictions model to a competency model. You're going to hear me still use addictions words. I'm presenting the transition in 3 segments. I was trained in the treatment of eating disorders at DePaul Rehabilitation Hospital in Milwaukee. It was a new program borrowed from a program in Minnesota. Eating disorders program was based on Overeaters Anonymous, which was the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, with the verbiage changed to fit eating disorders. When I took a 10-month temporary position at the counseling center at Lehigh University, eating disorders was a hot topic, and I was asked to establish an eating disorder program. Naturally, I based the program on my training. I had to adjust everything to pertain to college students and a 15-week academic year. The student population at this male-oriented school was 44% female. Now, I understand national statistics differ by which publication you read, and hopefully you're going to be able to follow along on this chart. So, applying national statistics to the student population at Lehigh University, expectancy can be compared with actual numbers. 6% of 2,223 females at Lehigh University would yield an expectancy of 133 eating disorders at the college. Of course, there was no way of knowing how many actual cases existed. Of those, 13 would be expected to enter treatment. The actual number was 12. Both the expectation and actual number for anorexia nervosa was 0. The expectation for people diagnosed with bulimia nervosa was 1, and the actual number was 11. The highest percentage is for binge eating disorder. The expectation was for 3. The actual number was 1. The treatment modalities were an open group format, family therapy, and individual therapy. The itinerary for an open group was quite ambitious, as you can see from this slide. The group started with 7 members. Most people dropped out after week 4. After 6 weeks, 2 people remained, and at that point the group was disbanded. So the dropout rate was 71%, which is in keeping with the national statistic of 70%. And the highest dropout rate nationally is in the 20-year-old age group. 3 students availed themselves of family therapy, and 1 came to the counseling center with the express purpose of meeting with her parents. In all cases, family treatment was 1 session due to parent availability. So the family sessions took place either on Parents' Weekend or on a special visiting weekend. 8 students were seen in individual therapy. 2 of those attended group, 2 attended family therapy. Therapy consisted of 6 to 8 sessions, so consistency and continuity was difficult due to exam schedules, term papers, semester breaks, and holidays. After Lehigh, I entered private practice and became director at a private agency. So now I was seeing a more socioeconomically diverse population in Philadelphia and Bucks County in Pennsylvania, Mercer County, Trenton area, and Hunterdon County in New Jersey. So once again, I was the one to set up an eating disorder program. This time I dispensed with group treatment and substituted adjunct groups at Overeaters Anonymous and the American Anorexia Bulimia Association. Marital therapy was included as needed, and children under the age of 16 were seen in family therapy, and progress was determined by parent rating. People kept a weekly calendar and diary. The calendar was the means to keep track of behavioral change and measure success. The focus was on successive days of non-eating disorder behavior. The weekly diary kept track of the boo-boos or relapses into eating disorder behavior. They recorded what their behavior was, what thoughts or feelings preceded their episodes of relapse, and the diary required them to consider what alternative coping behavior they might have used. The weekly diary was based on the notion that eating dysregulation is a dysfunctional response to emotion. However, in 1992, David Allison and Stanley Heshka reported that there is no such correlation. And in fact, patients had a particularly difficult time with completing the prior thoughts and emotions part of the weekly diary. I also was receiving feedback about the adjunct groups, and the negative comments outweighed the positive comments 12 to 2. Most notably, people did not like the focus on their eating disorder behavior and on food, and also they complained that it was one size fits all. So shifting to a solo private practice in Bucks County and Lehigh County gave me the opportunity and impetus to rethink how I was collecting and evaluating data and method of treatment I was using. At this point, the therapy population was based upon referrals from local colleges, employee assistance programs, managed care organizations, or insurance carriers. Now, I don't know whether any of you experience this. I can be standing in the supermarket staring at products on a shelf for what seems like 5 minutes because I keep scanning for something I insist should be there, but just is not there. And as a psychologist, can't help myself, I realize positive reinforcement has been removed and I'm in extinction mode. So the length of time I spend scanning is the spike in behavior upon extinction. And when I'm willing to admit the item is not going to appear in front of me, scanning ceases and I move on. So I start to wonder if I was on an extinction schedule with my therapy treatment. And what I mean is that sometimes people were getting better and sometimes they were not getting better, which means that the methodology was on an intermittent schedule of reinforcement. So my comfort with having a paradigm was intermittently reinforced. I was not willing to wait until no one got better to decide I was in extinction mode. And I questioned how the addictions model I had been using was functioning in treatment. So now I say to you, whatever you do, do not think about bears. What are you going to do? Think about bears. If I tell a person with an eating disorder, your eating disorder is only a symptom of another problem, but I want you to focus on this tiny aspect of yourself and keep track of your eating disorder behavior and be mindful of healthy eating practices, aren't I really telling the person I'm going to keep you stuck in thinking about your symptom, beers, which was a complaint about Overeaters Anonymous? And if I tell you to think about what really is your problem that leads to the symptom of eating disorder behavior, am I telling you the thing you're afraid of is real? It turns out that the estimated success rate with an addictions model treatment is only 5 to 8%. Professor Levitsky has declared that we do not have scientifically verified efficacy of treatment approaches for addictions. So if I do not want you to think about bears, I have to give you a competing behavior. I can't tell you to think about fluffy rabbits because you can put bears and rabbits in the same picture. So Focusing on not eating disorder behavior is still focusing on the symptom. So I actually broadened the scope of treatment. I started to focus on 5 essentials for quality of life and fulfillment. We need proper nutrition. We need adequate sleep. We need physical movement or exercise. We need both self and other affirmation. And we need the benefits of a 3-stage process of introspection. Of course, all of these work together. I especially emphasize introspection. Now, unfortunately, with time constraints, that will not permit me to elaborate specifically upon each of the 5 essentials. If you're interested, I do discuss them fully in these 2 of my books. The 5 essentials are utilized on 3 successive levels. Level 1, that I call acknowledgement of the information, is the yes, I understand. I've heard this before. I know that already. Level 2 is enlightenment. This is the aha moment of truly understanding how the 5 essentials function. And level 3 is transcendence. This is incorporating the 5 essentials into everyday life to live a truly fulfilling life. When people enter treatment, they begin at one of 5 nonlinear stages. There is the pre-contemplation stage. This is when they may be railroaded into treatment by someone else, maybe by an intervention, or they have a passing curiosity about treatment. The contemplation stage is when they are actually considered the possibility of treatment, or maybe they're shopping for treatment approaches. The undergraduates at university were mostly in the pre-contemplation and contemplation stages. People entering treatment in the pre-contemplation stage drop out within 4 sessions, and people entering treatment in the contemplation stage drop out within 6 sessions. This is compared to 4 sessions, which is the average for mental health visits for an eating disorder nationally. The preparation stage is when they are sick and tired of being sick and tired, and they're gearing themselves up for the energy to make changes. Now, an individual at this stage may have previously tried treatment and dropped out, and now they're gearing up again. The action stage is when they have committed themselves to change and are wholly willing to take action. And the maintenance stage is when they have made the necessary changes in their thinking and behavior, and they need therapy to be what I say is the wind beneath their wings as they continue in order to not relapse. Movement through the stages is not linear, which means that anyone can cycle through any of the stages at any point in treatment and recovery, again, to use the addictions word. With the change in methodology, many more people follow through with the action and maintenance stages, which is represented here in red. So I also changed the way I evaluated progress, and the new measures I instituted were outcome-based. I utilized 10-point self-rating scales of progress and level of functioning, as well as open-ended questions about therapeutic interventions. The rating scales, although crude, have proven to accurately reflect the individual sense of self and provide quantitative data that can be graphed. I share the graph at each appointment, both to reinforce progress and to be able to recognize regression and plateaus before much time elapses in treatment. People like that they are receiving progress reports and that their treatment is individualized. Also, the measures are easy to complete, and so compliance is 100%. This is a sample outcome graph. This person was ready for the action stage and was satisfied with progress, and so did not continue in treatment for very long. Another sample outcome graph illustrates that progress is not linear. This person advanced to the action stage after having relapsed. I also fiddled with open-ended questions on the intake questionnaire. So in addition to the usual questions about strengths and weaknesses, what have you tried already, what are you seeking in treatment, other questions were, what is your passion and what is your life's purpose? So the answers are consistent with social psychological research that says people answer first according to their social roles. I think it goes beyond the concept of people being social creatures that make social comparisons. And what I gleaned from these answers is that an eating disorder is a social dis-ease. Their sole source of affirmation is external rather than internal, and is based upon their skewed interpretation of what brings reinforcement. They focus on one small aspect and weigh it as though it is indicative of their whole being. They're missing the big picture. So, of the Indian story of the 6 blind men and the elephant, and maybe you already know the story. An elephant entered a village where there lived 6 blind men, and having never seen an elephant, they all decide to go explore the elephant. Hey, the elephant is a pillar, said the first man who touched the leg. Oh no, it's like a rope, said the second man who touched the tail. Oh no, it's like a thick branch of a tree, said the third man who touched the trunk. It's like a big fan, said the fourth man who touched the ear. It's like a huge wall, said the fifth man who touched the belly. It's like a solid pipe, said the sixth man who touched the tusk. Of course, they're all correct. However, none of them had the whole picture. Not only is the person with the eating disorder like the blind men, seeing only part of the whole, but I also am like the blind men if I view them as one-dimensional and help them focus on their symptoms and external sources of self-identification. Whether a man sits in a bar or in a temple, he is looking for the same thing. However, he will not find it in either place. We are bound to what we identify with. So if we identify the self as a parent or a boss or a bulimic, we are bound to that social role. And if you think your life will happen the way it has always happened, you become merely a character in a drama. And people with an eating disorder present their drama. At the root of the drama, the person with an eating disorder fears that she is not worthy or enough. And in my humble opinion, it comes down to we all want to know that we are lovable and enough. You cannot determine the significance of your life by focusing on what is outside of you. For people with an eating disorder, their orientation for determining whether they are lovable and enough is solely based on external affirmation rather than internal, and they do not have a whole sense of self. Treatment cannot convince them they are lovable and enough because it is, again, external. So how do you refocus so you are more in touch with yourself and find a sense of worth? Sometimes Socratic questions help. Between your mind and your body, who are you? How do you experience yourself? A beautiful illustration of this is a story told to me. While a family was riding in the car, the parents asked their daughter sitting in a car seat, "So, what do you want to be when you grow up?" So the little girl looked at them with this quizzical expression on her face, and she answered, "I want to be me." If we are like the little girl who is not identified with the social role outside of herself, we can connect with our own inner experience of ourselves be open to experience when it happens, and live in exuberance and fulfillment. So, a quote from Lao Tzu in the 6th century BC. It's about abiding at the center of your being, between your mind and your body. If you start with what is not you, your home, your clothes, your family, your car, your body, your job, what's left is you. You are full of yourself in a good way, and thus you are fulfilled all by yourself. Therapy can be about being at your center, which I talk about with the 5 essentials, because that is what brings about fulfillment. I was thinking of a story I heard about Salvador Minuchin. I'll tell you the story as best I can recollect. He was speaking with a woman who was retired and lived alone. Her presenting complaint was that she was lonely. He asked her about her activities, and she said she attended church on Sundays and she liked to raise African violets. So he asked her how many African violets she had, and the answer was quite a large number. He told her to take African violet plants to church on Sunday and give them away and see how many friends she had. And this was reported as a 1-session cure. Well, when I heard this story, of course I marveled at his brilliance. And it occurred to me that he applied an old adage that says, if you're feeling helpless, help someone. This automatically gives you a different perspective for the mind to file under experience. Furthermore, the experience of helping someone gives you a sense of fulfillment. Fulfillment happens from the inside out, not the outside in. So once you are full of your own sense of yourself, there is no need to substitute filling yourself. All that being said, I'm not asking you